Yeah, thank you so much, Karthik. I'm so pumped to be here. And yeah, I'll get into my background, but Magnet Monster, I'm just generally super excited about. I mean, we hit the ground running with some of your content, talking about the great things that you're seeing Digioh do. We're going to feature you guys next week in our first big agency piece. So excited to return the favor there. And yeah, just all, I've been following you guys for years now. So never been this close in terms of, actually producing stuff together. So I'm excited to be here and I appreciate you having me. Um, yeah, quick background. So I've spent my career as an entrepreneur and MarTech partnerships leader. So I co-founded a health IT startup out of college, and then went on to help enterprise MarTech orgs like Return Path, Airship, and Movable Inc. scale through partnerships. Just before Digioh, I spent 2 years building the partnerships program from scratch at Malomo, which is a Shopify order tracking platform that I'm sure many of the D2C listeners will be familiar with. And now I'm just over 2 months into my role here as head of partnerships at Digioh, where our goal at the end of the day is to drive conversions everywhere. And I think we're going to get into that here in a minute. Yeah, yeah, sure. So I think about behavioral targeting as marketing to customers and moving them down the funnel based on their actions across various channels. So it can be as simple as something like, a browse abandonment email, all the way to as sophisticated as like a fully dynamic website based on user behavior, hence behavioral targeting. I think most will understand, the browse abandonment example. That's just when I browse a product on a site, but I don't purchase or I don't add it to my cart. Obviously, again, most D2C marketers I think will know this, but a highly effective tactic is just sending me an email reminding me about that item that I was interested that I left on the site. Dynamic websites, on the other hand, are taking the entire on site experience and personalizing it based on my past behavior. So let's see, like think about a travel booking site that tracks your previous searches and then shows promotions for the destinations that you've searched most recently, right? Each time I come back to the site. Um, I think, one thing to call out about behavioral marketing is just some of it has been made a lot more challenging in today's day and age, given what I call, and I think it's been in some of our content, the cookie apocalypse, which is, the deprecation of third party cookies, cookies going away. And the other privacy rules and regulations and laws that are being rolled out, especially in regions outside the United States that already have those, right? So if you're an international brand, you're even in bigger trouble on some of these use cases. But that's why it's really imperative to not only capture that first party data, which is pretty much everything I described above, but to also capture zero party data. And the whole idea of behavioral targeting, I think, is going to shift a little bit because of that need. And I like to think about it more as full like customer journey targeting, because at the end of the day, we're actually able to target customers, and we're going to need to target customers based on much more than just their behavior across those channels. Yeah, sure. I've got a couple examples that I'm hoping we get to later that hopefully will bring this to light more. So I'll keep this short. But I think traditional marketing, targets broad audiences in sort of the traditional batch and blast manner. So an email to an entire list, right, or your entire customer base or your entire prospect base, so to speak. It may consider, general demographic data like where you live or how old you are, but that's really as sophisticated as traditional marketing has been. Whereas behavioral marketing, on the other hand, as we discussed, is dynamic and personalized across every channel and every touch point across the customer journey, or at least that's where it needs to be. Yeah, man, it's a great question because I think there's a lot, but from my perspective, there's kind of three core challenges. Um, First one is just like knowing who your users are, so let's call it user identification. Second is data collection. And then the third is data utilization or liberation, or however you want to think about it, right? Because the identification and collection is completely irrelevant if you can't actually action on the data, right? And what you know about your customers. So we can break it down. User identification, so that first core challenge, is just like simply knowing who your users are across the customer journey. And I go back to what I said earlier about, it's not just behavioral targeting, it's actually full customer journey targeting, because we need to provide those personalized experiences every step of the way to drive customers down the funnel and even post purchase, right? Because it's crucial to be driving repeat purchases or subscription program signups in today's day and age where CAC is through the roof. So you got to get your CAC to LTV ratio in place. So on the identification side, an example is just whenever I hit your site, you should immediately know if I'm a first-time visitor, a repeat customer, maybe a multi-time visitor who's never purchased, so that you can personalize my experience based on where I am in the funnel. Data collection, and you actually, because of I didn't want to make this a Digioh pitch, but without a solution like Digioh or Digioh explicitly, it's pretty much impossible to be able to know who I am. So you actually need technology to enable that identification layer. Data collection, the second core challenge. Again, you just mentioned it, right? This piece as well has been made more challenging by the third-party cookie issue, Google and Apple privacy changes, all the laws, et cetera. So I want to go back to what I said earlier, which is really there's never been a more crucial need for collecting zero-party data. And what that is data that's been explicitly provided to a brand by their customers versus zero-party data, which brands have captured from customers, but oftentimes kind of without their knowledge, right? It's tracking behavior across websites and on your site, but the customer themselves never said, here, take my data and use it for personalization. Whereas zero-party data is me handing you the keys to my data explicitly. And the way to capture that zero-party data simply is through gamified on-site experiences. So think about, an engaging pop-up experience like a spin to win or some sort of fun game that encourages leaving my email address to be able to play it or to be able to get a discount. This is a great tactic for explicit list growth, right? So I've opted in to your program to be able to have that experience on your site. But taking that pop-up experience one step further, and this is why identification is so important, is imagine if you could target me. Let's say I've purchased 4 times in the last 4 months, every time the same product, and you're a subscription brand. What if you could target me and say, hey, join our subscription program and save 10% on every order, and don't even worry about coming back to the site to repurchase, right? Now you've got my recurring revenue business. I'm happy because I saved money, and I'm a more loyal fan to your brand as a result because you knew exactly where I was again in the customer journey, right? It sounds super complex, but in theory, it's not. We're just looking at your email service provider, ESP data. Think about Klaviyo or Yotpo, and I'll talk about this in a little more detail. And your Shopify data or your e-commerce platform. And we're marrying those two data sets to know where you are in the funnel and then target based on that. So I think a lot of brands get intimidated and worry that this is going to be some 10-month project and that they can't prioritize it. In reality, a platform like us will take all that off your plate and set it up in a matter of weeks. I just think that it's much more simple than most brands believe it to be. And if you're working with a platform like Digioh, we're going to do all the heavy lifting for you anyway. So there's no need to be, too worried about it. The other amazing thing too, is we're really just activating data that you already are capturing. We're not adding a bunch of bad email addresses to your list and harming your deliverability or sending emails to customers who aren't engaged or don't want to hear from you. We're simply grabbing explicit opt-ins and then using the data that we collect after that opt-in experience to personalize the entire customer journey. So another way to do that is guided selling experiences, which you mentioned earlier, or a quiz on site, right? This is something that will ask you, all about your preferences, what you're on site for, how much you know about the products on the site, what similar brands you like, your flavor preferences, your t-shirt size, could go anywhere, right? depending on the vertical that a brand is in. But the amazing thing about asking all of those questions, and again, I'm going back to explicitly getting this information from your customers. All of that data can then be used to drive conversions on site and through retargeting if done right. And that sort of leads me to the last point here, which is that utilization piece, right? Because none of this matters if you're not utilizing this type of solution and all the data you're able to gather with it correctly. So in that prior example of the quiz, let's say, you can obviously offer product recommendations immediately upon quiz completion and drive conversions on site, which is a great tactic. And we see that sort of quiz completion to product recommendation, if they go all the way through the quiz, they're 3 times more likely to purchase on site. Amazing results, right? But the really smart brands are using all that data to enrich their email and SMS targeting as well. So for example, if I take a quiz and I don't purchase, let's say, you as the brand still have a treasure trove of data that I have explicitly given you, and that you can use to retarget. So, think about an email, hey Noah, awesome job on the quiz. As a reminder, these items would be perfect for you. That email is going to have the same level of effectiveness and conversions as a browse abandonment, because you know for a fact that you're confident as the brand that you've provided me the products that best suit me. I'm confident as the consumer that I just got served the best products for me. And it's a real win-win there. But you can take that email and SMS retargeting even further. So imagine using all of that incredible zero-party data to enrich all of your other prominent flows. Imagine if that really was my first time on the site, how much more personalized is a welcome series for me with that sort of data to plug into it. And that just goes on and on and on. So it's really about not just, driving those on-site conversions, but as we talked about, an omni-channel approach that leverages that data across the entire customer journey and across channels. And the nice thing is it takes a lot of, the thought process, because it is a lot, right, to think through. But when you have access to the data and you have access to a tool like Digioh for simple targeting, as we've talked about, and simple data transformation between not only, using it on site, but also immediately in real time sending it to your other platforms like your Klaviyo or your Yotpo or whatever you're using to send email and SMS, it takes a lot of that really critical thinking out of it, because it becomes very clear what you need to do once you start capturing that data. Yeah, I'd love to share an example. Just really quick on Digioh, everything that we just talked about can be powered by our solution, from the identification piece to the data collection to the data utilization. And it's not, I mentioned this a second ago, but it's not really just about Digioh, right? It's actually about the power of our integrations. So with over 250 integrations, we can pass the data anywhere, we can ingest data, and we can use that to provide these on-site and, retention marketing, omni-channel experiences. But I'll walk through one of them. So Andie Swim here is sort of like a luxury swimwear brand. It's cool. I've worked with them here at Digioh and in the past role at Malomo. So cool to see it come full circle. But their entire site really is optimized to provide customers guided buying experiences. So as we talked about earlier, again, it's really a win-win, because it helps the customer uncover the most relevant products to them more quickly, but it also gives Andie tons of valuable data on their shoppers, which provides the confidence that a brand really needs to drive conversions up. So as you can see, if you're following along on the screen, which is really cool that you guys do this on your podcast, by the way. Love it. Andie has their style quiz as the first option in their nav bar. So you can kind of see like this is really important to them not only capturing that data, but moving customers down the funnel on their site.
Yeah. That's very smart. That's a very smart move, and they've kept it right there on the top. I mean, not a lot of DTC brands will have the courage. That's what the education part about, knowing what behavioral software can do. That's what it does. I mean, you take very bold decisions. You put a quiz right there on the top menu there. Yeah. Sorry, please go ahead, Noah.
No, you're good. I couldn't agree more. And actually, we're seeing this more and more across our merchant base. They're putting their quiz right in the top nav, and a lot of times, like Andie, it's the very first option. That just shows how important this data is, and how much it's able to drive results both on site and post session. But they don't even just stop there with that first quiz. They actually have 3 different quizzes featured throughout the site funnel, so to speak. So first they have this style guide quiz that just educates customers on what styles they will likely be interested in based on their preferences. Wow. In the middle of the funnel, they have this mini quiz, which I think is vastly underused, to be honest with you, because it's a great way, like very quick one-step way to capture some zero-party data, but then direct customers to a dedicated landing page or a product recommendation page based on what they're searching for. But it's just a one-question quiz that it's just asking what occasion the customer is shopping for today. And I think about this, and we talk about this a little bit internally too. This is like what we consider forward motion on the site. And in this case, they're just guiding to a collections page, which is an amazing user experience and gives Andie just a little bit more data that they can use to personalize. And, we'll get into this a little bit more, but it's not even just about driving that on-site conversion, right? We're sending that data immediately back to Klaviyo so that they can use it for follow-up emails or plug it into other campaigns as well. But yeah, great point. Great point, Karthik. Yeah, and then at the bottom of the funnel, they have their Fit Finder quiz. So Andie, as a swimwear brand, now knows a bunch about the customer, but size could still be an issue. So they ask a series of questions that help them find the perfect fit, giving the brand and the consumer, again, that win-win situation, confidence that the products being recommended are, a great match. And then we kind of get into, the down funnel stuff. So they use this experience to capture not only email and SMS opt-ins, so that, list growth piece that we talked about earlier, but all the zero party data they're capturing on their customers is, again, going to Klaviyo, going to Yotpo, going to Postscript, any ESP in real time. In this case with Andie, they're passing all this data back to Klaviyo and using it to trigger those automated emails and personalized campaigns. So these triggered emails, this is how about this for a stat? Over 70% click-through rate. So it just shows how effective they can be at, retargeting someone who may not have converted on that site initially, but then can confidently take action from a completely personalized email. And, while the quiz complete triggered emails are fantastic, Andie can use all the data they've captured to retarget throughout each customer's entire lifecycle, which is what we were hitting on earlier with a welcome series, a browse abandonment, any other flows that you're triggering.
Yeah. Just on that topic, just on that point about 70% conversion, 70%, you said 70% conversions, Noah?
Click-through rate. Yeah.
Click-through.
I think I've got a stat on conversions here.
Yeah. So when you said that 70% click-through, all of those 70% people have taken this quiz, which means that there's an intent that they are looking for. So every click is an intent. Every click is a behavior that they are trying to show, and that's where you get a little more smarter about what they are trying to, where they are trying to get, what they are trying to achieve, what they want to become in their life, and you personalize and customize that. And like you said, you extend that data to Klaviyo or Yotpo or whatever, and retarget them meaningfully, across the funnel.
Yeah, and I just go back to, not only does it give the brand confidence that the emails they're sending are likely going to be at least engaged with, but but it gives the consumer confidence as well, right? If I'm on the fence about a swimsuit because I don't know if it's going to fit me or any item, for any reason, I do know that I've provided this data to the brand explicitly so that they can figure out for me what will be the best fit or what will be the best item, right? Or the best items. And that's why we're driving, these types of results. So, Andie saw a 55% increase in year-over-year revenue from their automated email flows that leverage this zero-party data. So that's not just a triggered email, that's across the flows that they've plugged this data into. A 71% click-through rate on these retargeting emails, and overall 343 increase in conversions. So massive impact here, right? Just based on this pretty simple use cases that we've talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. Just by implementing a quiz, I mean, I do understand that there's a lot of brains behind creating that quiz, a lot of creativity that has gone into behind putting that quiz together. But imagine if someone were to do it, if a brand were to do it, and you showed while you were demoing the quiz, you also showed that there's a quiz within the quiz just to gather zero-party data, which is ultra smart, which I felt is really smart. But on the whole, if you look at it, imagine not implementing this quiz versus implementing this quiz and experiencing these kind of numbers, 55% and a 55% uptake in revenue, 71% uptake in click-through rates, and a 343% conversion. I think it's insane for somebody who's never tried behavioral software, who never tried a pop-up form that's customized, who's never tried a customized website.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think over time it's going to become a no-brainer. It's our goal, me as head of partnerships, Blake is our VP of marketing, and our entire team at Digioh to better educate the market on why this is imperative in today's day and age. And over time, we truly believe it'll become a no-brainer for most, if not all, D2C merchants of a certain size. But right now, there's still, education to be done, and that's on us. Yes. So we do. We have this landing page on our site, 61 or 60 plus now, 61 plus now, examples of quizzes that we're powering on our site. You can click any of these links and go down the quiz funnel to see that not only is every single one of these quizzes custom, but the questions they're asking are completely modified to the brand. The outcomes that are being served on the product recommendations page, completely customized to the brand. You can see how pop-ups, engage throughout the on-site experience as well. Sometimes we're powering those pop-ups, sometimes we're not. But yeah, that's a great call out. Check it out. 61 or 61 plus now quizzes that we're powering, and it's actually kind of fun to take some of these. Like, I've gone down the quiz funnel on a lot of these just to see what it's like and get to know the product better and our customers better. And I've bought stuff after taking the quiz that I never thought that I would be interested in. But it's effective. Yeah. So the first thing that we're going to do when you come on board with Digioh is we're going to start identifying more site traffic. That's, you're going to get immediate value out of more identification. If we can increase the amount of site traffic that you're identifying by 5x, which we can in a matter of weeks, that's a huge win in and of itself. Then we're going to move on to something like a pop-up to start grabbing more explicit opt-ins while we're working on your quiz. And the reason I say that, it's not necessarily that you couldn't implement everything at the same time, but because each quiz is custom to the brand, because the logic of each quiz is custom to the brand, right? It does take a few weeks to get up and running, but we're actually going to, bring that time to value down to 0 days because we're going to turn on identification immediately and start working on the rest from there. 2,200 D2C brands now. And yeah, and that's a great point, Karthik. Like I want to make it clear because again, going back to being hesitant or fearful that this is going to take up too much time, all we need from brands is guidelines on guidance, I should say, on the ultimate goals of what we're implementing Digioh for, and we can obviously help with that based on our experience with those 2,200 brands, and some brand assets, right, to plug into the quiz. From there, it's hands off, and our team does all the work. So we don't just build the quiz, but we actually help you with all that targeting that we talked about, right? We help you with email flows and triggers, at least on the quiz side, and then just provide guidance every step of the way. So it really is a very low lift for brands, but on the quiz side, at least, it does take a few weeks. And I just like to be upfront about that because, again, everything is custom, and we take our time to do it right. Just to piggyback off that, I also think that I mentioned earlier that the power of Digioh itself is okay, but it's really the power of plugging into the rest of the stack so seamlessly that drives a ton of value. Similar to our agency partners, right? When our brands are connected with an agency on driving the strategy that we just talked about, that we're going to walk through with our brands when they sign, they tend to have outsized results, right? Because you as an agency have all this knowledge from all of your merchants, right? That you can let us know, hey, this worked, this didn't. For this brand, we need this because they're perfect in this vertical, right? For this brand, we don't need that because it didn't work on that, our other client. So I'm really excited to continue partnering with you guys and the agency network at large, especially in the Shopify ecosystem, because throughout my experience, it's just been a no-brainer to really get outsized results out of your tech stack. Yeah, so Digioh is very easy. It's digioh.com, digioh.com. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's Noah Rahimzadeh. I'm not going to spell that, but maybe we could put it in the show notes or something. Or you can find me through Digio's, LinkedIn profile, because I'm always reposting and commenting there. But I would love to connect with, any of the listeners and chat more about this and how it might fit their specific needs, or, I'm just generally happy to connect with people in the D2C space. It's always a pleasure. So hit me up if you want to chat.